We are joined today with the whole museum team for a very exciting virtual talkabout with Wits Art Museum. And we welcome all of our guests who have joined us today. It's a very good turnout and we're excited to begin. I just have a few welcomes and to introduce everybody that's here today. Today, we're going to hear about Wits Art Museum's latest exhibition, Seen, Heard and Valued. WAM celebrates 40 years of the Standard Bank African Art Collection that runs until February 2022 in their museum in Johannesburg. This exhibition takes over almost the entire museum, I hear, and showcases the best of their collection of nearly 9,000 artworks in this part of their collection, and is accompanied by a 42-chapter publication that has an extremely limited edition of 200 and is available for sale directly with the museum if you're interested after this. I will put a link in the chat. Let me start by introducing the team. Kutlwano Mokojwa is the African Arts Collection Curator. We have Julia Charlton, Senior Curator, Fiona Rankin-Smith, Special Projects Curator, Kamal Narayan, Education Curator, and Ndara Udom, who is the Media and Liaisons Curator for WAM. So welcome and thank you very, very much for joining us today, and really appreciate you giving your time to tell us a little bit more about this seminal exhibition. Very warm welcome to all of you. So I think we can start. Is it going to be Kutlwano joining us to talk about the whole project overall and kind of just outline why this exhibition is so special and what is the collection all about? Over to you.
Good evening, Lee, and to the listeners. We at Wits Art Museum are honored to be given this opportunity to talk to the incredible 42-year partnership with Standard Bank and our current exhibition, Seen, Heard and Valued. WAM celebrates 40 years of the Standard Bank African Art Collection. I am Kutlwano Mokojwa, and I have the privilege of telling you a bit about the rich history of this collection. My colleague Julia Charlton will discuss the major publication that accompanies the exhibition. Fiona Rankin-Smith will take you through the exhibition and some of the ideas behind it, whilst Kamal Narayan will discuss the education and public program centered on the show, and finally, Ndara Udom will discuss its vital marketing program. The slide that's on the screen now shows the title of the exhibition, On View at Wits Art Museum. The Standard Bank African Art Collection was established in 1979 as a joint partnership between the University of Witwatersrand and Standard Bank. This was groundbreaking. Both parties recognized the importance of forms of African art practice at the height of apartheid era, when this material was considered craft and material culture, unworthy of being called art. Wits started to incorporate African art history into the history of art curriculum in the late 1970s and needed a collection around which to focus its teaching. Standard Bank was committed to the preservation of cultural heritage and creative practice from the continent. And both partners recognized the need to combine art and education in the establishment of this rich research resource. The objective of the collection is to acquire, maintain, research, and exhibit African art. The agreement outlined the different responsibilities of the two parties. The bank would provide an annual purchase grant to acquire traditional African art, and the university would be responsible for caring, preserving, exhibiting, and documenting the collection. The slide shows images of catalogs covers from 1979 and a beautiful Dan mask, one of the first purchases for the collection. The vision was for the collection to serve as a rich resource to be used for teaching and learning about African art, to preserve our national heritage, to track the progression of the many art forms found in Africa over time, and to stimulate local and international public interest. In this image, you see an installation showing the multiple aspects of the collection, which, with the case of Hungubani, with medicine containers on the left, and Nyamisoro medicine container by artist Johannes Maswangani in the center of this case, and a sculpture, Zonka Shangan Girl Dancing, also by Johannes Maswangani on the right. The connections between the different forms and sculptures and objects used in ritual practice are clear in the repetition of elements like detachable heads. The works acquired for the collection were initially mainly from Central and Western Africa, the regions of the continent. However, from 1984, the collection grew significantly its Southern African holdings and focused almost entirely on this region. This development was influenced by various factors, including the prevailing exchange rate and prohibitive cost of purchasing work internationally, the opportunity to create a resource that would be most relevant for the region, the growing recognition of the value of work from Southern Africa, thanks largely to the work by Wits researchers to counter the dismissal of established international scholars of the worth of work from this region, and the growing conviction by all scholars of the value of artistic traditions of Southern Africa. This slide is an image from the 2015-2016 exhibition, Activate, Captivate, Collections Re-Engagement at Wits Art Museum that showcased the use of the collection for teaching and research. This display was by digital art students. The agreement which governs the collection has been modified 3 times through its 42-year existence, last of these being made in 2004. It was during this last version of the agreement that a provision to allow a small allocation of the grant to purchase non-traditional African art forms by African artists was made. When dealing with inactive collections such as the Standard Bank African Art Collection, it is important to note the continuously changing and contested language used to refer to it. Terms such as traditional, historical, craft and material culture, or even African art are constantly being negotiated with and contested, with every generation of academics and art historians adding to the nuanced understanding of the discourse. Most recently, Wits Art Museum uses historical or classical to refer to works previously called traditional, in recognition of the ever-evolving and changing forms of art made according to this tradition-based practice, regardless of when they were made. And this last image is a work by DRC artist Hile Balu, which was produced while he was on residency with the Wits School of Art, and provides an important African contemporary critique of colonialism and neo-colonialism. I hope this presentation is helpful in providing context to the Seen, Heard, and Valued project. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you so much, Kutlana, and thank you also for being our guest curator in last month's September online sale. We appreciate it so much. I think there's, as I mentioned before, an extraordinary publication that comes with this exhibition and catalogue. I wouldn't call it a catalogue, I would call it a book. Julia is here to tell us more about that component. Thanks, Julia, over to you.
Thanks, Lee, and hello, everyone. I hope in this brief discussion to give you an overview of the publication produced to mark this extraordinary 40-year anniversary. And the image here is of the front cover of the book on the left and the book next to a clay vessel on the right. In designing the cover, we wanted it to reflect the dual heart of the project, that of Wits Art Museum and the Standard Bank African Art Collection. the journeys of the two are inextricably linked. The images here are details of the brick facade wrapping the first floor level of the museum and two of the artworks in the holdings. The textures of the woven basket and the clay amasumpa inspired WAM's architects, Nina Cohen and Fiona Garson, to design and commission a specially shaped brick for the facade. Seen, heard and valued, the publication and exhibition had an unexpectedly long gestation. Originally planned to unfold in 2020, the year after the 40th anniversary, it finally came to fruition in 2021, when WAM was able to open to the public again after the extended lockdown. The book, which was compiled by an editorial team of 7, is as a result very substantial. 414 lavishly illustrated pages, forwards by the two institutions, an introduction, a timeline, and contributions by 42 authors, along with a number of appendices. The images here are from the event earlier this month, when we were finally able to celebrate safely and show the principals of the two institutions that jointly own the collection. On the left, Wits Vice Chancellor Zebulon Vilakazi, and on the right, Sim Chabalala, Standard Bank Chief Executive. I especially like this image because it's very much a portrait of the moment. Standard Bank African Art Collection is extensive and varied. This slide of a wooden object on the left and a painting on the right gives an idea of the range of objects in the collection that stimulate ideas about African art. On the left, a Zulu Itunga, a carved wooden milk pail, and on the right, a 2019 oil on canvas painting by Sipho Ndlovu. Or exactly when, and it was not thought of as art in the community in which it was made. The painting, by contrast, is signed and dated and made to be looked at as art, yet the subjects of the two have such a strong relationship. Together they demonstrate the complexity of the terrain and the richness of changing ways of thinking about African art. The publication reflects a range of artworks. Some contributions are personal narratives from the perspective of lived experience. Some are analyses of an aspect of art historical discourse, and some explore a particular work or artist more deeply. The chapters by authors are divided into 3 sections to reflect the 3 parts of the title. Each is introduced with an installation image from a previous WAM exhibition. We threw our net widely and invited many to participate. And although some were not able to due to other commitments, we received submissions from 42 authors. Each have engaged with the collection over the 4 decades. And I've made a selection of just a few contributions to highlight this evening. Difficult to do because they're all so different and so fascinating. The first section, Scene, narrating the collection histories, has 10 contributions. The introductory image is from the 2013 exhibition called The Art of Life and Death and Everything in Between, with the Ghanaian coffin in the shape of an eagle in the foreground. Next is a double-page spread from Sipho Ndabambi's chapter, Field Trips and Field Notes. When he worked from 1985 to 1998 at Wits Art Galleries, which was WAM's previous iteration, Ndabambi conducted field trips to his home province of the Eastern Cape. These are some of the artworks he purchased for the museum. Of equal importance is the information he recorded of the names of makers and beadwork items. Lynn Cooney worked at WAM while on a Fulbright Fellowship in 2014-15. She obtained a PhD from Boston University in 2021. The title of her thesis is From the Gertrude Posel Gallery to the Wits Art Museum, Exhibiting African Art at a South African University. And it explores exhibition histories of the Standard Bank African Art Collection. This is a page with her analysis of one of our first exhibition catalogues in 1979. International Relations Professor John Stremlaw contributed a chapter called Diagnosing Our Differences, Assessing the Political Significance of the Standard Bank Wits University Support for African Art, Past, Present, and Future. He is interested in the role that art can play in the democratic nation-building project, and has referenced Sam Nkengetwa extensively in his writings. The images here are two works by Nkengetwa in the collection, and also on the exhibition. On the left, It Left Him Cold, about the murder of Steve Biko, and on the right, Revelation, showing apartheid perpetrators of human rights abuses testifying at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Her Framing the Collection is the next section and has 16 chapters. The image is from the exhibition Beyond the Ready-Made in 2019. In Belgian scholar Dunya Hursak's chapter, An Ongoing Story, Transitions, Innovations, and Evaluations of Authenticity, she references images spanning 50 years to explore ideas about objects, specifically the social lives of Songi Bifwebe masks in relation to different stakeholders in the DRC. On the left, a 1932 image from W.F.P. Burton Photo Archive at WAM. In the center, a Celebre-style Bifwebe mask. And on the right, a 1978 photograph from Hursak's fieldwork among the Songi peoples in the DRC. Tetsuya Kamei is a professor of cultural anthropology and museology at the Chukyo University in Japan. He's been working with Ndebele peoples since 1995 and took a photograph in the center of this double-page spread of instructor girls wearing ingolwani, the beaded leg rings. The isigolwani on the left and the isipetu, or unmarried girl's apron, on the right are part of the Standard Bank African Art Collection. Saatchi Chair at UJ, Professor Brenda Schmarman, considers the history of the Keiskammer Democracy Tapestry by the Keiskammer Art Project in Hamburg, Eastern Cape. This embroidered piece, about 50 meters in length and made up of 7 panels, was produced between 2004 and 2006 and reflects successes and failures on the decade following the advent of democracy in South Africa in 1994. Here, the original Keiskammer tapestry of 2004 is on the left-hand side of the slide, and it's got that ochre ground. Panel 5 of WAM's democracy tapestry on the olive green ground stretches across 2 pages. And on the right is an installation image of a copy of the Bayeux tapestry in Reading, UK from 1885 that was the original inspiration for the form of the Keiskammer project. The third section, Valued, Experiencing the Collection, has 16 contributions. The image is from an exhibition installation of Time and Again, a Penny Theopis retrospective in 2015. Visitor Services Coordinator Vizwe Ngesman's chapter, The Guests, describes her experiences of working the main entrance of the museum. She has identified 4 different categories of guests. Number 1, millennials and Gen Zs. Number 2, school groups and young audiences. Number 3, the privileged bubble. And number 4, the elders. And she gives examples of her experiences with each. With the latter group, she describes witnessing a grandmother explaining to a child how letters were sent through the post as a mode of communication, such as the Tito Zungu envelope imaged here. Snail mail would, of course, not be a mode that the child would recognize. Director of the Fakagezi African Digital Innovation Festival, Tegan Bristow, describes the digital art theory course she developed, dealing with positions and philosophies of technology from Africa. Called African Fractals, she looked at the collection through the lens of fractal mathematics and ethnomathematics. The image shows visitors using an interactive program in a 2018 exhibition called Digital Imaginaries, Premonition, that allowed visitors to understand the basics of coding by making patterns of colors and shapes, similar to beadwork examples on display. A screen grab of one of the visitors' coding patterns is on the right. Film editor Melissa Parry completed her Master's in Art History at Wits in 2013, and she based her thesis on the use of film as a tool for art historical research. The images on the left of the slide are stills from her film of Johannes Maswangani presenting his personal narrative. And on the right, gender activist Thandi Radebe reflecting on the meaning of the Venda Losha greeting and providing an important contemporary take on cultural practice. The last pages of the book include a number of appendices, which list the exhibitions, publications, and theses that have included works from the Standard Bank African Art Collection over the 4 decades. The end papers are a sort of mosaic made up of images of the covers of the publications. One of the goals of Seen, Heard, and Valued was to answer the provocation, 40 years, and what do we have to show for it? And I hope the publication plays a convincing part in answering that question. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you so much. I certainly think looking at all those publications in one screenshot like that definitely shows what there is to show for such a project and such a collection. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's an extraordinary achievement, that publication. Congratulations. And it's accompanied by a beautiful exhibition. And Fiona Rankin-Smith is here to talk a little bit about this exhibition. Over to you, Fiona. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lee, and hello, everybody. For my contribution to the webinar, I've structured a group of images that create a virtual tour of the exhibition. To kick off the celebratory exhibition, we decided to begin with a startling and dramatic entry point. 3 larger-than-life and boldly appliqued Yoruba, Gungun, and Igbo masquerade costumes posing against the flaming wine-red backdrop greet the viewer on entering the street gallery. To the left, inside the glass vitrine, are an array of some of the most important artworks collected over the 40-year period of the collection. In 1992, art historian William Dewey visited the University Art Galleries, as Julia said, WAM's previous iteration, when doing research for a book on headdress entitled Sleeping Beauties. The detail of the mother and child seen here at the top of the Chokwe staff, he commented, was one of the finest pieces of African art he had ever seen in any collection. It was part of a purchase made from Sotheby's in London in 1984, along with this 19th century pair of Tsonga initiation figures. These figures also featured on an important exhibition called Ubuntu, Art et Culture d'Afrique du Sud, at the Musée National des Arts d'Afrique et d'Océanie in Paris in 2002. The black figure next to the pair, also a Tsonga figure, was included in the groundbreaking exhibition Africa, the Art of a Continent, curated by Tom Phillips in 1995 at the Royal Academy in London. The image on the left of this slide shows 2 19th century Nguni bead panels placed on a painted wooden angled plinth that picks up the green in the beadwork pattern as a counterpoint to the red wall at the entrance. The slide on the right shows an Ndebele Dinaga, a bridal cape, and an Nyoga, beaded bridal veil, attached to a specifically constructed wooden wedge mounted against the wall as a conservational element to lessen the gravitational pull on the heavy beadwork items. The street gallery leads to the Gertrude Posel core gallery via 2 ramps. At the top of the first ramp is a wall directly facing the front door, from which the visitor enters the museum, in order to foreground an aspect of the diversity of the collection. Selected staffs from Southern Africa are arranged in a single long row for close looking and comparison. The grouping included staffs such as Ndebele and Xhosa, as well as 19th century carved wooden Zulu, Swazi, and Makonde staffs. In the slide on the right, visitors are looking at exhibits in the large freestanding vitrine facing onto the street. David Kolwani's Baggage 2 from 2001 is a large multimedia artwork made up of a number of found objects and paint on canvas. Kolwani was an artist who worked tirelessly to enable Black artists to have a legitimate space in the art world. An overarching curatorial decision for this exhibition was to foreground the artist's voice throughout where possible. This work is accompanied by a quote from a conversation with art critic Ivor Powell. Kolwani's voice is included in texts at other parts of the exhibition. The core gallery is a cavernous double volume space that lends itself to large works and the notion of spectacle. Here we included some of our most powerful sculptures on the floor, as well as important large-scale two-dimensional works on the adjacent walls, such as the Kolwani and the Salmon Tlengetwa that Julia spoke about. In the foreground, you see a pair of tall Sato tam-tam fon, male and female funerary drums. When WAM first opened in May 2012, Jackson Hlongwane's Altar of God from 1983 to 85 was exhibited at the entrance where the three masquerades now stand. For that exhibition, we designed a raised oval-shaped metal base on which the monumental carved wooden figures and large rocks, specifically selected and arranged by Hlongwane at the time of purchase, were mounted. Excuse me. For this exhibition, attempting to evoke a sense of an altar in a cathedral, the altar of God has been placed against the freestanding wall in the center of the core space. During the installation of this exhibition at WAM, in a moment of serendipity, we received an email from Robin Harris, a filmmaker, who offered us access to some extraordinary film footage he'd taken in 1985 and forgotten about. He, Pierre Hensch, and Sonia Zitko visited and interviewed Limpopo artists Jackson Hlongwane, Noria Mabasa, Nelson Makuba, and Dr. Patuma Sioko. Throughout the exhibition, we have included short videos of the artists speaking in their own languages about the works, some of which form part of the exhibition. Excuse me. In the core gallery is a standalone construction we refer to as the box. It came about because when the ramp was constructed to connect the core to the mezzanine, we lost a lot of wall space behind the ramp. We took a bold decision to construct a permanent box shape that could house projections of small works while allowing smaller works to be hung on the outside walls. For this exhibition, the inside of the box is symbolic of a private space. It features small contemplative paintings by Colbert Bashile that deal with male circumcision. In his early work, he sought refuge and healing through art. He says of his work, "I come from a place that is shrouded by powerful cultural norms and customs." This image shows an elevated view of a viewer entering the box from the outside, which shows 4 photographs by Santu Mofokeng depicting religious gatherings from the series Motuleng Caves, Surrender Hill, Clarence. The works are accompanied by a wall text where Mofokeng explores his own personal response to his spirituality. Behind the large freestanding wall, next to the curved ramp, are 2 large tapestries from Rorke's Drift. One called Rorke's Drift, 1991, by Lioness Magwaza, and the other, Umhlangano Wezilwane, Animal Meeting, in 1993, by Alina Ndebele. Across the ramp on the high wall that runs along the stairs to the lower gallery spaces is a 7-panel embroidery called the Democracy Tapestry Panels from the Kaiskama Art Collaborative Project based in the Eastern Cape. This space worked perfectly for the staggered arrangement of the 7 very long tapestries that could easily be viewed while walking up the ramp. The Rorke's narrative continues in the lower level space which we refer to as the strip. The narrow passage space features drawings and liner cuts by artists who trained at the Rorke's Center in KwaZulu-Natal, run by members of the Evangelical Lutheran Church. Well-known artists whose work appear here include Azari Mbata, John Mafagejo, Cyprian Shalakwa, and Dan Rakhwate. The strip also highlights artists from the Polly Street Recreation Centre collected in Johannesburg, which included artists like Duran Sihlale, Lucas Sitole, and Louis Makubela, whose charcoal on paper drawing, Little Black Boy Lost in a White Wood, is seen in the foreground of this image. David Kowani is quoted in a wall text in conversation with Ivor Powell on the importance of the Polly Street as a place where Black artists could flourish by showing their art and coming together to share ideas. The long south wall of a mezzanine gallery faces the top of the ramp that leads into the space. A large box frame is installed here with individual clear plexiglass shelves that display 19 headrests, mainly from Southern Africa. The installation includes a Pedi headdress from Limpopo province that is illustrated by hand in Anitra and Nettleton's important book, African Dream Machines, Style, Identity, and Meaning of African Headdress, published by Wits University Press. The mezzanine floor space is a lot smaller than that of the core below. This space draws on exhibits that are linked to some of the chapters in the accompanying publication that Julia has spoken about. Sandra Klopper and her chapter, Imaginative Reconfigurations, Discontinuities in the Work of 20th Century Artists from Rural KwaZulu-Natal, writes about Amabaka, matrix, by isiZulu-speaking carver Zizwe Zenyanga Krabe. These rectangular-shaped wooden frames are holders for grass sleeping mats, which are rolled and stacked one above each other inside the frames. His work is hung above a wooden hinged trunk with similar kinds of pokerwork designs by a more contemporary artist, Elson Zuma, who comes from the Midlands region of KwaZulu-Natal, from Fort Nottingham. The work is called Radio Alzam, and the relief pokerwork images depict vignettes of forms of Zulu traditionalist daily life. A satirical sound piece plays out from inside the trunk in the form of a fictional news broadcast. Here you can see a detail of a news segment in the form of a comic strip like pokerwork reliefs showing education and wildlife. Also in this slide is a huge oversized woven basket called the Zulu Village by Angeline Masuku, also an isiZulu speaker. Part of the curatorial strategy was to reference elements of previous exhibitions. This slide and the following reference exhibitions both held at different times at the Standard Bank Gallery. In 1993, I curated an exhibition entitled Emhlabeni, From the Earth. The exhibition featured an extensive range of pots from Wits and Standard Bank collections. Here we see retired archaeology professor at Wits, Professor Thomas Huffman, observing examples of pots that appear in the essay he wrote in the publication. In 1985, Professor Huffman put together a substantial pot collection that was acquired by WAM. Examples from Gavin Whitelaw's contribution to the publication on Zulu pottery and its production are also included in this current display. These artworks were included on Halakasha from 2010, the exhibition which coincided with the Soccer World Cup. The detail of the row of small carved and painted figures are Nkosi Sikelele by Johannes Sekugela, and they are of Bafana Bafana, the national soccer team, who represented our collective national pride during the competition. A carved football player from Cote d'Ivoire stands in front of a large-scale photograph by Andrew Dosumu of Angolan supporters dressed in traditional initiation costumes at the African Cup of Nations, hosted in January 2010 in Luanda, Angola. The photograph is juxtaposed with the Chokwe initiation costume from the collections. This is my last image, and here I'm wanting to communicate the extent of the collection in terms of scale, from the small, delicate items such as the spoons in the glass vitrine in the foreground, to the large and monumental installation of the Altar of God, which I mentioned previously. I hope you've enjoyed this virtual tour, and thank you for joining. And if you're in Johannesburg, or if you come to Johannesburg, we'd love for you to see the exhibition for real. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you so much, Fiona. What an extraordinary exhibition. I wish I could see it. I'm going to come visit soon, all the way from Cape Town. I think this collection has been a really important aspect of this collection, and its purpose has been around education and accessibility and using it for research and teaching. So I'm pleased to introduce Kamal Narayan, the new education curator at Wits Art Museum, who is going to talk a little bit about the education programming that has been created for this exhibition in particular. Thank you very much for joining us, Kamal, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Lee. I'm going to start by explaining the title of the exhibition because it links to my approach. It comes from the essay that I wrote for the catalogue. In the essay, I speak about using art collections to promote connection, engagement, and learning, and how this can be achieved through the education programming, such as WAM's Family Talkabouts. In the essay, I quote Brené Brown, who speaks about connection and describes it as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. My approach for the education program took inspiration from this. I aspired to create programming that would encourage seeing, hearing, and valuing. I also made sure to keep in line with the strategic objective of WAM's education programming. These included raising awareness and confidence in using the museum and its collections for teaching and research, providing the opportunity for learning and appreciation of the visual arts of Africa from the WAM collections, and sharing existing content and creating new content to promote education through art. With this as the base, I also had to take into consideration the fluidity of lockdown levels and the different restrictions that come with that. I looked at an approach that would include both online and in-person interaction. In both these methods, it was important for me for the public to see the variety of artworks and art objects and their beauty, and along with that, to create an interest to want to hear more, know more, and learn through engaging with the collection. Part of the online offering that was developed was the creation of WAM Art Minutes, presented by the members of the education team, myself, and the tours liaison administrator, Tsegofatso Matabane. The idea being that you get to connect with the people who are holding the education program. In these videos, we introduce an artwork from the collection, tell you a bit about it, and encourage engagement through an art activity that was inspired by the artwork. The idea of it being a minute or two long took into consideration our attention span when we are scrolling through online programming. Short form video clips allow for more efficient processing and memory recall. It packs a punch in a short space of time. Each of the WAM Art Minute videos focus on a different art form: masks, contemporary arts, beadwork, cloth, so you get a sense of the variety of the collection. What is great about this type of digital engagement is that we're able to present the artworks in a different way. We can really zoom into the artwork and show the fine details of the pieces. You as the viewer are able to be pulled into the artwork. We also have our WAM stories, short clips which seek to further connect the public with some of the WAM staff members as they share their stories about how they connect to the Standard Bank African Art Collection. For example, our data administrator, Mam Sonto, shares a story about how she related to the collection through recognizing art objects that were from her culture and formed part of her childhood, such as various beadwork pieces and the ititana that you see on the slide. This exhibition also inspired an education resource book that was compiled by Dr. Lynn Cooney from the Wits School of Education. The education resource unpacks art collections, the role of art museum, the art of Africa through the exhibition, and was conceptualized so that it was able to be used beyond this exhibition. It was designed as an interactive resource that encourages the participants to engage directly in the book, so there are spaces to write and draw. The content for the education resource reflects the content that is engaged with in the catalog. This resource has been digitized and is available on WAM's website, along with all the previous education resource books. We also have physical copies available in the museum. Along the lines of having the education resources digitally available, we also have been reaching out to schools and tertiary educators to offer, to assist them with digital resources for when they're unable to physically come to the museum. We really want to encourage access to the collection, even when it is not physically accessible. We've also created stop frame time-lapse videos that capture the setup process of the exhibition. You get a behind-the-scenes look at how the different gallery spaces changed and transformed over a period of 15 days. Practice setup process when exhibition. Our in-person programming has had to adapt to the changes as well. Part is cognizant of the number of people that are allowed in the museum. Keeping this in mind, we've strategically considered the type of in-person programming that we engage with and thoughtfully conduct. We have planned walkabouts where the curators will take you through the exhibition. These usually take place on a Saturday at 12 p.m. midday and does require people to book in advance as there's a limited number of people that can be accommodated. The general public can also contact us to book tours for the exhibition. School groups and tertiary groups who are looking to use the collections in their lessons and classrooms can also book a docent-led guided tour or self-guided tour. We want to create the opportunities for people to access this exhibition, engage with it, and learn about it and through it as much as possible. What I hope to achieve with the education program is to be able to generate a sense of curiosity that makes people want to explore every facet of what this exhibition has to offer. The exhibition is filled with the potential to encourage learning, and I hope we can inspire connection and create the opportunity for people to see, hear, and value, and also to feel seen, heard, and valued. Thanks, Lee.
That's very exciting to see WAM open again and open to the public and available and accessible. And I know this show will be on until February 2022. So there's lots of time. I see a lot of people in the chat saying it would be so nice to see it in person. So I hope you do get the opportunity to go and visit this exhibition and be part of the education program. A part of the challenges in the last 18 months that we've all faced is having to embrace the virtual, because we've had to isolate and keep more of a restricted lifestyle. And I know that WAM has embraced some innovative ideas of reaching beyond the museum space. And so to end off, Adara, over to you to talk a little bit about some of those strategies for media and reaching out to more viewers.
Thank you, Lee. I must say, I'm in a privileged position to not only be rounding up such an engaging discussion on the Seen, Heard and Valued exhibition and project, but also to share more about our marketing with the public. At WAM, we are passionate about accessibility, and so this year we decided to bring the museum to your homes and phones. To do this, WAM has developed an exciting social media marketing campaign. One of the ways we've done so is through a series of dynamic videos where the public is able to go on a visual tour through the museum, getting a peek into our Seen, Heard and Valued exhibition, no matter where you are. Here's a series of stills from our latest video. We are also enthusiastic about reaching the younger market. And so alongside our exciting online and on-site educational programming, which Kamal has just spoken in depth about, we expanded our social media reach to create hubs of evergreen content. We have 3 main social media channels: our Instagram page, our Facebook page, and our YouTube channel. Our Instagram page was officially launched in March this year, and it has been an invaluable tool to introduce our collection to the public. Every week, an artwork from the Standard Bank African Art Collection is featured on the page. Many of these artworks, such as this Ghanaian Kente, are also featured in the Seen, Heard and Valued exhibition. The captions on these artworks include details like the title of the artwork, when it was created, the artist that created the artwork, and what type of materials were used. We also feature 2 exhibitions each month that were previously held at WAM. This presents the public with the opportunity to learn more about the excellent caliber of exhibitions that WAM has and continues to showcase. A great example is Ernest Cole Award winner Masikole Feni, Drain on Our Dignity project, which was hosted at WAM in 2017. Facebook, one of our oldest platforms, remains a news source for all that is happening at WAM. The public can get the early scoop on what events are happening and any new exhibitions opening. To subscribe to our mailing list and find out more details about our exhibitions, visit our website. Play and learn more about the Standard Bank Africa, eyes of the members of the WAM team. You can find both videos on our Instagram and Facebook pages. If perchance you missed any of our WAM Art Minute or WAM Art Stories videos, you can find them on our YouTube channel under the relevant playlists and binge to your heart's content. A marathon of our WAM Art Minute videos can make for an engaging Saturday with the kids. You can also find a playlist of all the visual tours of the Seen, Heard and Valued exhibition on our YouTube channel. Just as the partnership with Standard Bank gave rise to the Standard Bank African Art Collection, other partners have aided WAM during our new marketing journey. Business Arts South Africa, commonly known as BASA, has been a valued supporter of the Seen, Heard and Valued project. Interested in visiting the museum? Entrance to the museum is free, as is our public programming. You can book a time to see the exhibitions using the link in the description, and we are looking forward to seeing you. Alternatively, call the number on our website. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Facebook using the handles at the bottom of the screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adara, and it's nice to see ways in which WAM can be even more accessible. I think that leaves us at the end of our talk, and we are just on time. Thank you so much to the panelists for joining us, and thank you to everyone who has listened till the end and has been interested in this event. Thank you so much. And the next thing coming up on our Strauss & Company sale is the October live sale in Cape Town. And if you are interested in seeing some museum quality works, we've got a beautiful Julius Mfete, a wonderful beadwork Maparo by Esther Mahlangu, and we even have a very, very good quality in Ngutane. So it's in our pop-up exhibition, not quite to the museum quality of what we see today, but we've been working very hard, and I hope you come visit us at Brickfields to see it. And if you're not in Cape Town, then please do join our virtual gallery exhibitions and that sort of thing. So I want to end off with a big thank you to the WAM team for sharing with our audiences this beautiful exhibition. And I do hope that everybody is as interested as I am to get my hands on one of the publications that comes with this. And remember, there's only 200 printed in the world. So I hope you do contact the museum to get a copy and to visit the museum when you're in Johannesburg and see this exhibition before it closes in February 2022. Thank you, everybody. Julia, Fiona, Kamal, Adara, Kutlano, and Kerry and Toboho in the background. Thank you so much. I can see you put a lot of good work in it, and congratulations on a beautiful show. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
We'll say goodbye. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.